And today we have four of our illustrious authors of our book. I'm sure most of you have it or have seen it by now. There are 15 of us, quite a collaborative volume here. And we have three people who are out of the US and one person who's from Los Angeles. So we've got a very international group today. And we're going to start with Susan Fisher, who is our US person. She's from Los Angeles, and she is a licensed psychologist, PhD. And she's been doing past life regression since 1988. So I'd say she's well seasoned in the world of past life regression. And she combines past life therapy with spirit releasement, breath work, life between life work. And she does research, and she also provides supervision for other therapists. And she's currently writing a book for children on trauma, how to deal with trauma. Maybe she can tell us a little bit about that. And her chapter is titled Single Session Healing with Past Life Therapy. So I'm going to give it over to you, Susan.
Well, thank you, Holly.
Well,
I was a past life therapist before I was a psychologist. So that's really my home base is the spiritual work, and just kept learning new things through the years. My first spiritual experience was as a small child because my grandmother was a medium and an energy healer. So I grew up with it. And then when I got married, my husband and I studied with Rosalind Briere in the Healing Light Center Church and learned all sorts of things, became a Reiki master, and anyway, lots. So he he helped me, um, encouraged me. We talk about past life relationships, and I'm sure that the two of us, I said he was my soulmate, and we were together in many lives before that. And I think he came to this life to help me. And I'm a widow, so I think that was our plan. But as a human being, I didn't like that. I didn't, it was really hard to lose the love of my life and the father of my children and all of that. So we have a soul path and maybe a plan when we come here, but being in this body, it's much more difficult than when you're in the spirit world planning it and thinking, oh, that's a good idea. But it's very interesting. I'll talk a little personally, that I lost my brother in his 20s, and I have four grandchildren and three great grandchildren. They're only one female, and that one female I actually delivered. And I believe that's the soul of my brother coming back into our family. So it's so interesting about the recycling of things and what what we're here to work out, or I don't know. I think it's important for all of us to do our own past life work. Um, I, for a long time, felt like, okay, I died in that past life and I came into this past life to go through something similar and survive it. And then I could go, check, did that. All right, now my soul knows how to do that. And that's so ego pleasing, right? Just like that feels good. But then over the years, I kept thinking about it and did more work. And it was really like, well, that I came to a life where I was a leader of military. It wasn't military called that then, but anyway, I led my men into a disaster and they all died. And I think part of what my soul's been doing is punishing me because of the guilt of that. And by working that through, there's been a huge release for me. So it's important not to just stay with what feels good, but really look at what's behind that and what more needs to um, be known, I guess. And I kind of worked through that as I was able to, because there was a lot of guilt and shame, and I had to I had to invite all the men back in and get their forgiveness and come to understand that they got it. After they got to the spirit world, they got it. And they don't hold anything against me, and I don't need to keep suffering or punishing myself. So I find that I just keep growing as I do my own work, and I love doing the work and watching people that come to me grow and change. Um, in the book, I wrote about people that had one session and had a dramatic change in their life. But I guess going along with the ego thing, there was one lady that came almost every week for a year because been she'd survived being attempted murder, and she kept finding that this same soul killed her in all these lives, but she was not willing to look at why or what caused this to start. And that was so interesting because finally she was able to say, all right, I'm ready to know what I did that set this off. Mm-hmm. And when she found that life and worked it through, then she was able to release it all. And I think what we have to do is be patient and understand that people can work only at their own pace. And um, it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the gender, it doesn't matter the IQ. It's each person is their soul is working on their own timeline, their own path, their own pace that they can tolerate. Um, I feel like the getting the life is important, and then also after we know what the life is, to be able to release promises or beliefs or what attitudes, physical symptoms, guilt, shame, fear. I work a lot with that after we found the life, because that's what has been carried forward into the current life, and causing something that they're suffering from or want to be free from. And because I'm a psychologist, sometimes people come to me for therapy and then want to do past life work in addition, or sometimes people come for past life work and then they want to do some therapy. So it can be a combination for the people that work with me. Um, some I've just gotten a referral from a lady that sees a couple, and the husband wants to do past life therapy, and he feels like that will help their relationship by understanding how they've been together before. So, and I believe that does help. Um, so, um, but I use a lot of different things at the end of the session. I encourage them, after we've done a lot of work, to um, what is it, creative imagination? Is that what Roger Wolger taught? Where you he even had you draw the picture of your character, your person in that life, and interact with it. I encourage journaling and drawing and nature and walks in nature or being in nature, hugging a tree, looking at your dreams. All of that helps with the integration of the material. And I have one person that comes probably like once every 6 months, once every 9 months, and they work through something. and then they go away and they kind of integrate it, and then they come back to work on a different issue. And it's probably about 70% of people come because they have a problem. Other people come, they want spiritual growth. They want to know what they're here to do, or and the life between life work helps a lot with that. But also understanding what blocks they're holding that keep them from working on their spiritual path. I don't think there's many roads that lead to Rome, I guess. So I'm a shaman, so I've worked that way. I've done soul retrieval and spirit releasement, and even little children that have a spirit attachment have come and been significantly different, according to the parent, after the spirit has been released. So there's a lot of work to do, and it's so interesting and fascinating. And I don't know what else to say. That the past life work can be just your sole purpose or your sole goal with me, or it can be adjunctive to therapy. I work a number of cases where the therapist has recommended past life therapy as an adjunct to what they're doing. So they do sessions with me and then take that back into their own therapy. I think that we can all work with each other and support each other in that person's growth and development and working towards peace and happiness. So that's about my time. So I guess I'll stop. Let someone else talk.
Thank you.
Or
if anyone has questions, write them down at the end of our presentations. You can ask questions of individuals or just general questions, okay? And I have muted everybody. So if you have just come in recently and you're still muted, not muted, mute yourself so we don't have any background noises, please. Okay, so I'm going to go back to gallery here. And the next presenter is Marion Boone. And Marion is from the Netherlands. She is an international trainer through TASOS. Am I saying that correctly, Marion? TASOS?
Tasso.
TASOS? And our member, Hans Tendam, is very involved with the work you're doing. He's the owner, I believe, of TASOS. And she is currently in the United States staying with her daughter who just had a baby. She's got a new grandbaby. So she's here today in our US territory. And Marion is working with a lot of different modalities, and she's developed some of her own that she's teaching, which is working with ancestral healing and family fields. And her chapter is entitled Infertility, Causes and Healing in Past Lives. So share a little bit more about your work, Marion, and then tell us about your chapter.
Thank you very much, Holly. It's a pleasure to be here among people that know this work, do the work, and have the passion. And it was beautiful to hear Susan speaking. We met at conferences years ago. And I'm delighted to have the possibility to share, because you see the color of my hair, it's time to share. First, I'd like to say that the Institute of Tasso, which is TASSO, and that's a name, it's not short for any words, it's a name, was founded, of course, by Hans Tendam. And Hans is not very young anymore now and very busy still. So we have a new director, and that is Janine Boy, and she is active. She's much younger than we are, but she's experienced and seasoned in the field. So the work is going to be brought by new energy and ongoing efforts, and I love that. So worldwide, we have quite, as Tasso Institute, we have quite some beautiful people. There are 5 cities in India bringing this program. And it is, in fact, a 1.5 year intense program. But there is so much. We could easily start an academy because, as Susan said, there are many ways and many approaches, and the results are so promising and so amazing for humanity, individually and collective, that yes, there is a lot to share. And I keep finding my inspiration and enthusiasm by the results that our clients have. So I work a lot abroad. I teach in 3 or 4 languages. And there is a big school in Russia. I do not speak Russian. It is translated, but many of them speak English. And I like to make a quote here that Hans likes to say: bad English is what unites us all. So, yeah, and it's true. You hear my Dutch accent, and I'm sometimes looking for the words, even though I have family in the States and I speak the language often. But I don't know. People are nice. People forgive me my mistakes as long as they understand it and take the liberty to correct it when needed. What I like to share is, as everybody who is watching here, this is the year 2024, and we live in very interesting times. And that is not a positive wish. If a Chinese tells you, may you live in interesting times, in fact, he wishes you challenges and difficult times. Now, in our approach, we know how to transform that, to see, okay, what do I learn from this? What is my personal thing here? Why is this paining me more than my neighbor? Well, that is the personal weakness that I have to heal. And the pain is a portal for finding the past in which you are still bound. So we are bringing the past back to where it belongs, to the past, by being more in the now. You can only live in the now when the past is not pulling you back. And this is the power of our work. We do past life therapy because we want to be more present in the present life. Not busy with what has happened in the past, but learned from it, transformed it, taken it in so that your weakness becomes your power, your strength. And I studied philosophy at the university in Rotterdam, but I did not go for the last bow, the bow, we call it the bow, the diploma, because at the time I was given a cancer for my own healing. And I also had a bad marriage at that time. So I was in a divorce and I was sick, and I didn't go for the last paperwork, but I did 5.5 years of intensive studies at the philosophy department, and side studies were psychology and fundamental theology. So I'm very happy that I did that, because I can use all that knowledge and background information in this beautiful field that we work in. So I encountered that we live in interesting times more than one level, because science is changing, and science has a hard time admitting that it is changing. Science wants to keep on to the money it earns or to the credibility it earned. Science has difficulty to step back and say, oh, wait a minute, there are more ways to look at the phenomenon. So what happened 400 years ago was that science agreed to let the spiritual part of humanity, which we all know we have because it's healing, to let it up to the church. Now this became a power issue. Science became a kind of God, and church, with all the good things that it also does, there's a lot to say about that, but it has also done a lot of harm. It went into power. So metaphysics is what is above the physics, and physics is what became like subjective science. Now, there were 2 American professors from Harvard University named Schaefer and Chapin. They wrote articles that they have published, at least in one book that I read, and it is about how objective science doesn't really exist, because it's interpreted different in every culture, and even translated in languages. Many of the articles have a different even content, by translation only. So let us all skip that. I know what is real when the session is healing. My client tells me that in a past life, he could take 5 steps and he was so many meters further. He was a giant. I never thought giant exists, but they did. And I found them many times. Now, one of the giants was pregnant when she died, and she vowed for herself never to do that again. So the lady that is on my couch today could not conceive because a part of her was afraid to conceive and then to lose the baby, because that pain is too big. I cannot live with it. So we heal the giant, we heal the inside, we heal the human. And by that, the radiation of our divine presence, because that's what we are, is helping the world. You meant the human, you meant the world. This lady now has 2 children. That was not in the example in the book. In the book, I tried to give very tangible examples, because this book is written for also the bigger audience. We want people to know how they could use past life regression for their own healing. So I choose other stories in the book than I'm telling now. Fertility, the procreation of humans, is a very vulnerable thing. You cannot force the body to conceive. Like IVF will not always succeed. I researched that only 35% of IVF is successful. Now, it is written in the scientific reports, medical report, it is written that 35% gives a living birth. Now, be aware, they do not say a healthy child. They said a living birth, a living. So there's much more to that statement. So if it's only 35%, sorry, I don't find that amazing. That's not much. If you manipulate the body and force it to conceive, who says that part of the woman is so scared to conceive that her body will reject it again? Or maybe the father wants to have a child only because his family insists that he has children because there is a big family company or whatever. Then, not even to speak about the fact that in some cultures, people really want to have a boy, not a girl. So there's all this fear on the topic that plays a role. So past life regression goes exactly there, to the shadow part, to that painful part. And Susan spoke about it. She mentioned the perpetrator past life, as we would call it, that you find what is the cause behind all this misery happening to me. And when you found that and you heal it, then the consequence is gone. And that is beautiful. It's a kind of heuristic movement. When you do your research, you go back in time, you find the cause, you think, oh, what happened there? What was my decision there? What did I do? I made a wrong decision. Things went wrong. I blame myself, but I blame myself forever. It can stop here. So you heal yourself and you heal the people that suffered from it. That is now past. Past goes back in time. We are now living in the now because the past is no longer pulling us back. Now I am here. Now I can tell my body that I'm ready to invite a child to come to me, not to force it, but to invite it. And yeah, I have had a time where I kept the announcement, the birth announcement of babies in my practice. And because I was so happy and proud that my client has a family now, which she so much wanted. I want to share one story of a man he had become infertile and he had become impotent. He was not that before. What happened to him? This man had 4 or 5 relationships, and all the time he thought, this is the woman I want to stay with. This is the woman who is going to be the mother of my child. But the relationship ended. All his women, girlfriends, had an abortion. So in his subconscious mind, there was a very strong feeling, nobody wants my child. So if nobody wants my child, why should I be fertile? The body honors what you think. So the body is keeping the deep emotional imprints together with the mental program. We call that the mental postulate, and we call that the psychosomatic ailment. But that can be very, very influential in your lifetime now. And then when you heal yourself, you will also heal whoever was involved in the past. The time that we could easily say, okay, I am out of that war, and I just say bye-bye to everyone, go to the light and do it yourself. That time is over. That is, at the moment, we don't work like that. We heal ourselves and then we look back. We have techniques, life between life or place of overview or even higher self-consultation. And we look back and then you see that the servant that you had that died because of your own wrong decision was loyal and his spirit is still with you. And so that loyal servant is still using as a parasite your energy. So you have to make him aware and you have to come to terms, energy exchange, awareness, logic, understanding. And then that spirit is released. And then the air is fresh. I name that spiritual hygiene. And to my surprise, I noticed that there is a lot in America in the energy levels of local, location-bound spirits. It's not only the times of the Native American Indians, and it's not only the slavery background here in the South. No, no, it is much more than that. A lot is happening that is in the air and has to be solved. And I expected that in India, but in India, you also have many groups that are constantly doing, like, say, meditation and mantras and uplifting frequencies. And I think that has been neglected in the Western culture. Europe, with all the wars that we had on our territory. And what I find here also, there is a powerful natural presence of consciousness that got clustered into whatever happened in the location. So we can address it and then get the individual out of the collective. So you meant the one person, and that one person looks back and then can help heal the collective. And in this way, we get rid, when we have the critical mass of healing, we get rid of a lot of clouds over the earth. And I think that helps us, and definitely our politicians, who need a lot of wisdom and who need much more love than they have presently, to get out of those shadows. So I see a very big importance for this work. And it starts with the commitment individual. And so as long as our teachers invite me to come, I will do it and share my experience. By the way, I added organ regeneration to the Tasso program because the organs keep memory. And when you address an organ and the organ starts talking, and you can do that with the ovaries and the testicles and even the womb on the topic of fertility, it's just amazing what stories come out, what merges from the body. A statement like a lady said, I can't have all I want. And this was a statement that her teacher had said when she was a small child. The teacher was annoyed by her and she said, you can't have all you want. And that came into her system and that program went on. And when she was married, she really wanted children. And that postulate came up, you can't have all you want. She couldn't conceive. She had 2 children adopted, did a session, and after that, spontaneously, she was pregnant. So what drives me to do this work is a healthy admiration of the beauty of recovery, the healing of our clients, and what it does, I think, really, I'm convinced, for humanity. And on the other side, a firm positioning because of a healthy feeling of anger against establishment refusing to let science evolve. Because the knowledge is there, the techniques are there, people are suffering unnecessarily. why would we continue that? We don't need the church for all the metaphysical spiritual work. No, the church may be there and it can be very beautiful, but allow people to have their own spirituality for healing. And the physics should not be so stubborn to think that we have no spirit. Because, you know, the word psychiatrist, psyche is the soul, iater is the Greek word for doctor. How can a soul doctor not believe in a soul? That's close to ridiculous. Anyway, I'm not keeping any time, so you can give me the timeout sign when I talk too much. Okay. I wish you all well, and I hope to see you somewhere, and good luck everybody doing the work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to hear from Andy now, and Andy Tomlinson is from the UK, and he has also been a teacher and a trainer for many years, and he's authors of 3 books, and I just looked him up on Amazon. One of his books is translated into 6 languages, so he's getting out there in the world in a big way now. And one of the specialties that Andy's developed is working with energy clearing. He has his own forms of spirit releasement and working with energies in spaces, environments. And he is going to talk about his chapter, which is Life Between Life Regression. Welcome, Andy.
And people were getting these really profound insights of who they were and what the purpose of their life was. So I thought, oh, well, I really need to learn how to do this. So I typed into the search engines Michael Newton and his training, and he was doing it the very last training course himself before he handed it over to others in Los Angeles in a week's time. So I had to talk my partner then into why all, and then I wrote after them and they had one place left. And I thought, okay, thank you, universe, for making that happen. Then I had to explain to my partner why all of a sudden I was going to fly over to Los Angeles to do this workshop in a week's time. So I convinced her that if she went with me, I'd give her a week's holiday afterwards and pacified things, and went along and did this training with Michael. And Michael, although he's not the first person to write books about the soul memories between lives, he's the first person that really started to do training with it. And his books were so much more in depth than the other pioneers. And so much in gratitude for the amazing work that he did. And after doing that, I invited him to come to Europe and helped him set up the first training events in the Netherlands. And eventually his training started to become available worldwide. And I think that was at a time when I decided that I had a lot of skills in training, so I really wanted to establish a training of my own. So I included all of the work of Roger Wolgar using non-hypnotic techniques, past lives with hypnosis, and as an optional follow-on at Life Between Life Regression, so that people would be able to help other people with that sort of work. And I realized quite quickly that as wonderful as the training Michael Newton did, there were other ways to do it, because I had a lot of skills in how to pass on quite complex knowledge quite quickly. So I introduced ideas such as role play to develop people's skills a lot quicker. And the training eventually went on to specialize with non-human souls. These are souls that have had multiple incarnations on other planetary systems, but have chosen to come down to Earth to help them at this moment of time in this big shift that we're going through. And the ways of working with them isn't quite as straightforward as human past lives. So because of the techniques that have been developed, we seem to get an awful lot of students coming in to be therapists that themselves were non-human souls. So I then went on to write 2 books that included the experiences between lives. And one of the students who eventually now has taken over the training in Between Lives has written a chapter in the book, Transforming the Eternal Soul, about how to work with non-human souls. So if you are interested in that aspect, any either of my books talk about the life between life experience with multiple case studies, and working with non-human ones is in Transforming the Eternal Soul. But what I wanted to do in the book for that we're talking about was to talk about a slightly more regular human past life experience, because the audience was really for people who wanted to be able to see all the different sorts of things that you could do. And some of the amazing chapters that I know a number of you or the authors have been writing just gives a breadth of what could be done. And then people can go through and follow whichever area that they're interested in. So the chapter that I wrote covers quite an interesting, but it's quite an inspiring experience someone had. And when people are going through a life between life regression, one of the things that has to be done is that they have to be cleared of blockages or things that could stop them from entering this very profound spiritual state. Because when people go into the life between life state, this is probably the most private area that they've ever been to. If you're in a marriage, you'll probably talk about some aspect of when you were younger, or but very rarely do people talk about all the events that happened to them before they actually incarnated. So it's a very private area, because it contains information about why, as a soul, this particular life has been chosen, why the people that they're working with maybe soul group members, and they've worked out different roles to learn different aspects about the life. So an important part at the beginning is to make sure that things are cleared. Quite often the spirit attachments that need to be cleared. A number of you have been talking about those. Sometimes there are other energies that have to be cleared. And there could very well be emotional blockages. So someone may need to do past life or current life regression to clear those. Because until they're in the right place energetically, they're not able to enter the life between life regression. It's almost like if you're sitting an exam, they're not going to give you the answers to the exam papers till you've actually sat the exam. And the exam is working through your life lessons. And then once you've done that, you can see what the answers are, and it gives you a deeper insight in order to make a meaningful life. So there's two aspects of the between life regression of what it enables people to do. It gives them a deeper insight to who they are, why they're here. Quite often people have taken on big challenges. It's almost like at a spiritual level, they've looked at Mount Everest and said, oh, wouldn't it be fun to climb Mount Everest? And then when they're in the life, they get halfway up Mount Everest and thinking, my goodness, why on earth am I climbing this great big mountain? Whose idea was this? And of course, when they discover it was their idea, and in fact, they may have been advised by spirits of light, we wouldn't recommend climbing Mount Everest in one go. Maybe you're better off doing some smaller peaks first. And they say, oh, no, I really want to do Mount Everest and get it all finished with. And then the beings of light say, well, okay, this is your choice. But then when people understand why things happen, it's a lot easier to put life into perspective in a meaningful way. And the other aspect of the between life regression, why it's so special, is that people's views on life change greatly. Although past life work changes people's perspective greatly too, this gives a slightly deeper insight and much more accepting of other people in general. So there's a big impact in a very, very helpful way. So that's the between life work. Some of you may find if you're doing past life regressions, client may spontaneously drop into some aspects of it. You know, you go through the death point and maybe in a deep level of trance, and all of a sudden they may say, oh, I'm being met by some other people, and oh yeah, that's my spirit guide. And they may start going through aspects of it. But the thing is, as a therapist, we have to be careful, because if your objective is to resolve a client's issue, then your job isn't to go through and do a life between life regression. Your job is to work and resolve that client issue, which often means stopping that experience and then using your transformational techniques to help the client. So when people come in and they want to experience a life between life regression, it has to be planned. They have to get the consent to do it, and then you can go through and do it. But it's very intense work. It does require specialist training to do it. And the Michael Newton Institute does amazing work. In the Past Life Regression Academy, we teach it in a very similar way, and I've got full respect for other schools as well that I've come across that are teaching it in a similar way. So that's a chapter, that's the work I do, and that's why I've got a passion for this aspect of the work.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, and our final person is Debbie Papadakis, who is from Canada. She has a school called the Hypno Healing Institute in Toronto, where she trains hypnotherapists and past life therapists. And she is a clinical hypnotherapist and a registered psychotherapist. And she is featured in many news and media sources and is renowned for her many different skills that she outlines, all the training she's done that she passes on to her students. And her title of her chapter is Healing Past Life Wounds to Transform Present Relationships. Okay, Debbie. Get yourself unmuted, Debbie, if you're, yeah, let me unmute you. There you go. Not coming through? You there, Debbie? I don't see you. Where are you? There you are. Debbie, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank
There
you.
you-
Sorry, I was talking without. Thank
Okay.
you very much for being invited to this group. And once, I don't know, a year or so ago, I came to listen to this group and was fascinated. And I'm wondering why I haven't come back, but I think I should. There is lots of beautiful information here to learn, and I think we're all a student. Like I call myself professional students. So, and I think we all are to learn from each other. The work I do, I am a registered psychotherapist, but in some level, I feel we're lucky that in the psychotherapy part in Canada, here in Toronto, Ontario, they allow hypnosis. Hypnosis has become part of the psychotherapy. So therefore, we can I can work with this. I can combine hypnosis and any other modalities associated to hypnosis. I've been doing this work for a long time, and I love it because originally I started because I was looking for my own healing, and I never stopped, and I never stopped learning. So my focus is how to work with people, and in order to, I found like the time doesn't exist. So if I take people into the earlier, I do a lot of regression work. If I take it back to the earlier time, childhood, or even in the womb, or even in past life, or even in the genealogy, we have a faster healing than if we instead of talking about the today's issue. Because if we talk about the today's issue, sometimes we go into the surface work, but if we go back into the past, all of a sudden we have a total healing. Not only healing about the issue, but about the things that many more issues that they don't even talk about it. Total transformation. So, and because of that, I focus a lot on the past. I focus on in the womb, in the genealogy. I focus on and I have developed techniques in these areas, and also in the past life. Past life work is fascinating for me. First time I read what's Brian Weiss book. I think most of you read that book, and it's the phenomenon. But before that, I heard a couple of stories about where I come. I come from Greece, and there was a lady. She never had gone out of the village, and she was talking about her past life work. She did not call it past life, but she was saying, in the past I was dancer, and she was loved dancing, and people were laughing at her, and she was princess, and she was, I don't know, she had some stories there, and she was the entertainment for the other women listening to her. And I have never heard of past life at the time, but many years later, and then a couple other things happened, many different stories, and I was fascinated. I got hooked into it, and I'm still taking classes about all that. I study with about 6, 7 different schools, and I can take class from anybody. So my focus of the work I found a few years ago, I've been doing this for, I don't know, 28 years or so. It's a lot has to do with relationships. And that's why I wrote a book. It's called The Relationship Code. But because for me, the relationship is not only about people, with people, but relationship is with things and situations and cigarettes and eating and anything else you can think about it. And once we heal one relation, we heal yourself. But the most important relationship you have to have is with yourself. Once we heal ourselves, all of a sudden we heal the people around us. And the people around us heal others. Therefore, we're changing the consciousness of the world. So once I start doing past life regression, all of a sudden, my work had become more powerful. And lot has to do with relationships, of course, other things too. And I also work with a lot of addictions, like drug addicts and all that. They're the part of my work. And even within themselves, if I take them to past life and they see where they're coming from and whatever this started it, all of a sudden we have a faster healing. And I also teach and do life between life. And if I summarize everything, I combine them all together. When I have an interview with the people, because I will not work with anybody unless I have a consultation, I tell them that I combine all those things. And if you do not like something, please let me know. But most people are open to that. So working with all these modalities helped me to create incredible transformation with people. And so past life, the story I wrote here was very interesting because this woman had all kinds of issues with relationships. She could not, she felt not good enough, not whatever she was. She felt horrible, and she was allowing all men to basically, I'm not going to say abuse her, but really, if I use the right words, she wasn't happy with any relationship, and she had to follow their instructions instead of to do what she wanted her to do, because she felt she wasn't good enough. She was afraid she's going to lose them and all that. So entering that past life, and actually accidentally enter the past life. I wasn't preparing for past life, but quite often I do work with having open everything. She went into past life and she saw herself in a Turkish harem and all that. But the interesting thing that was for me, when I took her to look at the whole thing from a higher perspective and see who she is, which is really life between life when you enter those levels. When she is a powerful person she is, and she acknowledged herself who she was, then she wanted to help everybody else. She was able to see her other people working with her, who they were, because she then started seeing from the light. And then she saw even the men who was there. They through their light and see the empowerment that she spread to everybody, and how everybody felt and how she felt herself. And that transformation, then we bring her to now, and she felt fantastic. And that is only an hour work there. But see, the transformation is so incredible that her life changed. Not only she was treated differently by men, but recently, after the book was written, she got one of the highest jobs you can get, because she believed in herself. She believed who she was. And so we're looking for this type of transformation with a lot of the clients are looking for, including when I work with drug addicts, or when I work with alcoholics, or with whatever addiction people they have. I will clear up also. Some of you talked about the spirit releasement. I studied with Baldwin and Irene Hickman and all that. So we clear this, and then all of a sudden they're free to go. But one of the things that I learned over the years, more and more and more, you ask the right questions and see where the people go. And once they found little blockage, you help them with questioning to clear that blockage, then they will go to higher level and higher level and higher level. And once they start seeing themselves through your questions, see who they truly are, all of a sudden, the work is done fast, and they're feeling empowered, and every part of their life changes. Last weekend, I was in the NGH conference, and I was doing some demo. I always do demos, and this lady, she was blocked. She was totally blocked, and finally, with some healing work, she unblocked herself, and she entered the life between life, which we didn't call it life between life, but she entered that level, and she started screaming in the middle of the session, say, I got it, I know who I am, I got it. I mean, I don't know what she was talking, because I didn't ask, she didn't want to share it, but she became like a different person. She was transformed in front of 30 people were sitting there. So to see that, for me, as a psychotherapist, I have to sort of follow the rules of the psychotherapy. But again, once you allow the person to go, that you can see it as a metaphor, whatever, in order for not for me to be allowed to do that. But is all of a sudden the transformation is almost like you did a 50 sessions. And I am more than proud to do this work. And there are times I'm thinking I should retire, but I don't know. I'm just thinking, and I stop there. I don't go any farther. And I'm what else I can say about it? Like, the focus of my message today is when we enter those levels and take them to past life, or to take them, we don't only learn the lessons. The lessons is a little bit of thinking. We need to go into the feeling. And once we change those feelings and transform the person from internal, in an internal way, that everything changes, because we're all interconnected. Their thoughts are interconnected. The people are we're interconnected. And once you heal yourself, everybody else is healing. And the how do they call the consciousness of the world changing? And I think this is, and somebody talked about the times are very hard right now. The only way we can help the world to change is by us changing ourselves, share that with others, helping others, and allow the world to feel that. And if there are blockages around, sometimes we, especially myself, I go too hard. I should learn how to slow down, because I'm a very fanatic about it, about this work. And so in order for us to be, to help the world to be a better place. And I think we're doing a great job. And Holly, I can't say enough for you to creating these groups and to spread that information, and to and your team. I know you're the number of you members there, but it's an incredible work, and we all need to be proud of this, and we all need to be to go with humility, and with not about us, is about what can we help, how can we help the world. And I do combine all of that together, and I'm so honored myself to be part of this group. And I'm not sure if however time is, but That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go back to the whole group here. And you all have a chance to ask questions or share what you'd like to share about what we've been talking about. Anybody? Mary?
I would like to, yes. Thank you very, Holly. Thank you very much. I enjoyed hearing you all, my dear colleagues. It was recognition, and we work in different ways, but we all achieve these beautiful healing and transformation with the clients, because people are not the same. Also, there are so many different people, so many different souls. I'd like to say one thing. There is, for the last 4 years, there exists, maybe 5, but I think 4 years, a Spanish language association of regression therapy called AETR, meaning Asociación Española de Terapia Regresiva. And they have a very enthusiastic board, and they have written, well, we are now doing the 5th book, I think. And the book that will come soon after our talk now is called Conciencia non humana. So that means non-human consciousness, what Andy talks about. So there are 18 therapists from different schools in the Spanish language. And I'm one of them because I am a member of the Spanish Association. And so on the topic, there will soon also be a book on the non-human consciousness. I just wanted to mention that. And thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Emil. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emel, and I'm Holly's student, one of Holly's students, and Suzanne's. It was amazing to hear all of you. Thank you so much for sharing your work and your experience and your wisdom. I have 2 questions. The first one is, a lot of your talks assume that a person can go into past lives or in between lives in relatively simply. It doesn't happen that easily or simply for me. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, how to make it easier for people to enter those. I mean, I go into states of consciousness for a regular hypnotherapy, but it's harder for me to go into past lives or inter lives. So I wonder if you could say a few things about that. And my second question is, are you aware if ancient civilizations have used these regression therapies? Do we have some type of evidence or documentation that ancient civilizations did in fact also go into past lives to heal or just to know? So thank you very much. I appreciate all of you.
Yeah, could I take the first question? Can I just ask first, do you do hypnosis or do you use bridges when you're trying to get people into past lives?
I don't do it yet. I'm just a student of, so
Oh,
I've
okay.
myself into
The reason for saying that is that hypnosis is a great tool, but it's not always the best tool, because some people respond better to use bridges. So in other words, if you bring up an emotion or a physical sensation, you can use that to go straight into the source of the issue. So being able to switch between hypnosis and bridges is quite important.
Right,
Between life regression, the important thing is not so much trance depth, although obviously people need to be able to get trance depth. It's to make sure you've cleared the issues first. And, you know, the things like pendulums and things like that, you can check to make sure you've cleared all the emotional issues or all the external energies that would stop them from having it. So it's, although it looks on paper to be quite a simple process, it takes quite a lot of skills to ensure that you can have every client coming in and giving them exactly the session they want. Does that help answer your question?
It does, but can you say a little bit more about the bridge? What does that mean? So if I want to go into past life regressions more easily, my therapist should do what
Well,
more?
the thing is, you may find that the answer to resolve a client's issue isn't a past life, it's a current life. So, you know, that to assume that past lives will resolve everything is an assumption that doesn't always stand up. So that if you're using a bridge, for example, supposing someone feels anger, you know, and that's the issue they want to work with, you'll say to them, okay, the last time you felt anger, tell me what was happening. And then as they start to feel anger, you say, go to the first time you experienced anger. And that might be in the current life, or it might be in a past life, and then you resolve it. So in other words, you flow with the energy, whereas with hypnosis and past lives, the work is to hypnosis and always into a past life. And as I said, quite often that's a very, very powerful way of working, but sometimes it may not resolve the client's issue. You with me? So that the skill is for the therapist to be able to switch between them and to use whichever tool is most appropriate.
Georgina.
I think you'll find schools that teach regression therapy, like Marion's School and the Past Life Regression Academy, teach bridges as well as other approaches.
I'd like to add on to that if I could.
Yeah.
Another thing that you could, and we always do in our clinic, is to say to the client, is it appropriate at this time that we go into another time, another dimension, or another lifetime to solve this problem? So we ask permission of the soul if the journey is appropriate. Now, the bridges are affect bridge, in which case you go into the emotion and you really feel the emotion. And you say, and do you do timeline? Have you ever practiced timeline? Have you learned timeline? Because you go back to the original sensitizing event and timeline, go back to the source in hypnosis, and that will take you back. It could be in the womb or before the womb when you're very young, or in another lifetime or another dimension. But always ask permission. Is it appropriate at this time that we go to another lifetime or another dimension at this time to solve the issue? And you'll get a yes or a no. And if you get yes, then the pathway is clear.
And Amel, you have learned the affect somatic linguistic bridge technique, which you're just a beginner at, but that's what Andy and Georgina are talking about, is to go into feeling and the body sensations back to the source of it.
I'd like to, if it is,
you have somatic
I'd
bridge.
like to add something here. Sometimes what you find, because I understand that the lady is still studying and maybe hasn't done already very much personal work. So what we find is also that there may be a personality part preventing the trance from really happening. So then you can personify that person who would prefer not to be found. It could be that a past life, let's say priestess or teacher, just doesn't want you to go there under the lead, because also it happens that the client may not have enough confidence in the one leading. So there are many layers. So you can have a past life that is in a way dominant, but there is a reason for it. And there can be a block that exactly is the door to where you need to go. And when you ask permission on that moment, you will not get it. We have permission. When the client walks in the door, they come. You have permission to open whatever door. That's what they come for. So if you give the high priest or the priestess on the backside too much power, then it will not easily happen. That is the past life thing. The present life could be a dominant teacher at school that says, you will not talk about this. And yeah, that can become a block, like keeping a secret, whereas the secret is not helping you. So you need more techniques. And what I pick up that Andy was saying, he was giving you more techniques to develop. And please feel free to just go through this, because it is a fact that in many classes we know this phenomenon, that it is not for everybody the same. And sometimes people say nothing is happening, nothing is happening. And only after 5 classes, they have their big impact or experience. And another thing is, in ancient civilizations, the other question, the Greek philosopher of Plato is known that he gave an answer when people came to him and say, you have to help this man, you have to help this man. And Plato was a bit annoyed and he answered, why should I care about his soul if he doesn't care about his own soul? So yes, they did soul healing. They were aware, and there are many varieties on how. Thank you for the question.
I'd like to just mention another tool that I use. I have researched the connection between past life phenomenon and astrology for decades now. And one thing I have observed, if people do have a challenge in accessing that material, as your question, was there is actually right times that energetically you can see using astrology. And it's usually the planet Pluto and moon Pluto midpoints, and I'm not here to teach astrology. But what I've been able to do with clients that have had a challenge in accessing is look at their chart to see when a riper time was. And that it's almost like there's a time for a purpose under heaven, or there's a right season, or the energy is, their psyche is more open. And you can energetically see it using astrology and kind of plan a regression when the time is riper for them energetically. I've also noticed over the decades that a lot of people have told me, oh, they've wanted to call me for several years. And then when they do contact me, I look at their chart, because to me it's like a very useful x-ray of their psyche. And they almost always call when there's a major Pluto transit or a moon Pluto transit, which says that they unconsciously know that it's a right time. So that's just another tool that I have found to be useful. And we all have our tools, and that's what's so wonderful about sharing in a group like this.
Yes.
I would like to add one thing, both in general therapy as well as past life therapy. A real key word for me is safety. So discovering, sometimes the psyche will respond to the question, what do you need to have safety? And when there's enough safety, it's easier to open the door. And that seems to be more of a question the psyche is willing to answer than to go directly sometimes to the body part or the feeling that holds the trauma. What do we first need to have the ground of safety, which could be many different things.
Let's open for other questions. Anybody have other questions? Yes, Teresa.
Hello, and thank you all for presentations and everyone for being here and just this group in general. I feel very grateful to the universe for bringing me this way. So my question, hold on, I wrote them down. I feel like I keep getting these messages, like I keep hearing about the soul attachment. Is that it? The soul attachment. And so I think I need to really do some more learning on this and get some training on it, just because whenever I hear it, I perk up, which tells me I need to. So we're talking about a soul attachment, and I'm just wondering, what are in children, and what are some of the signs or the symptoms that kind of indicate, maybe there's something going on here? In adults too, but specifically, I guess I'm thinking children, and maybe they're the same.
Who'd like to tackle that one?
I'd like to. The mainly mood swings, sudden changes in even strength, sudden changes in personality, and also ongoing tiredness, because those attached energies in general are parasitic. They use your energy, and even if it is a good attachment, it takes the energy of the living. So sudden mood swings and sudden personality changes, or sudden force that you have, you're much more strong than you were before. That kind of sudden change would be an indication of a spirit attachment. And spirit then is fragment attachment. It's not the complete spirit, of course, but it is an influence that is then too dominant in the present person.
Unless
Does it
they're a teenager.
and is it something that we come into with, or that can happen throughout at any point in our life?
Both.
Any point in your life, any point.
Teresa, there's a list of symptoms that might be helpful in the book called The Unquiet Dead by Edith Field.
Yes. Yes.
She's got a
Yeah,
list.
and even the beautiful book of Winifred Lucas, the 2 volumes, Handbook for Regression Therapy. There are many
Yeah.
examples in it. It's beautiful, and it's an American, so that's in reach. That's very educational, informative.
We have to be very careful, though, that it doesn't turn into a solution in search of a problem. We have to be very careful that, you know, just because we have learned, and I say this to my students, because you've learned about spirit attachments, this is not the answer to everything. Sometimes people do need help.
Yeah.
Maybe they do hear voices, and it's not a spiritual attachment. So be very, very careful.
Yeah, but what would the voice be then? The voice would be your past life saying, or your higher
Not
self?
necessarily, the voice could be schizophrenia.
Mhm,
It could be a mental illness.
That schizophrenia is also spirits. Shakuntala Moody, a psychiatrist in Minnesota at the time, she's mentioned in the book of Lucas. Winifred Lucas mentions her, and Hans ten Dam mentioned her. She did in her psychiatric hospital research, and more than 70% of her patients hearing voices and having this kind of behavior had obsessive entities with them and attachment.
I agree, that's 70%. What about the other 30%? All I'm saying is we have to be very careful not to make this a solution instead of a problem, especially with kids. We have to be very, very careful.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I get what you mean, but I do get that it's not a rule, if that is what we have to research. Yeah.
I have to leave, Holly, if you wouldn't mind. I'm so sorry, I have to go.
Thank you, Georgia. One more question? Okay, well, I want to announce that our book is being audio recorded now, and the recording artist is with us today. This is Sharon McWilliams is going to be the voice of our book, and she's in the midst of doing the recording right now. We're hoping to have it early in the fall.
And
Wow.
it was lovely
Wonderful.
to hear the voices that I've been reading. So it'll help me with the process. So thank you.
Wow, nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We will see each other next month. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday morning with us. Have a wonderful month. Take care, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
all.
very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Bye,
Holly. That was
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.